Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of the Master of None podcast. I am your host, Santa Claus. No, it's not. It's Stephen Murphy. I'm joined by my two little elves, Westy and Sam. Looking great. Westy with a normal size hat. Sam, not so much on the hat front, but it is Connacht. So
it's
that
my
is
Connacht hat from years ago. It's from one of the Interpros a couple of years ago in the sports ground on maybe the 27th or 28th of December.
And it did fit you at one stage.
It definitely did, which means my head's either gotten so big because of the popularity of this podcast, or
that's not it. You're the big head, but that's not it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're big-headed now, wait till we actually get listeners. Sam. Then you'll be unbearable. Yes, it's our last podcast of the year, boys. It's emotional. We've cranked out, well, not us specifically, but for the podcast, like 70-plus episodes. So we've been very busy here in Santa's workshop.
How much does that say about what's going on in our personal lives, huh? I really got to get some hobbies.
I think possibly the lockdown was another major cause of that, but we're not here to talk about COVID. We had another incredible weekend of rugby there, the past just gone by. Champions Cup, round 2, 4 provinces in play again. Well, we had 2 wins and 2 losses again, which is kind of becoming a habit. And Connacht seem to be always in the losing bracket there, guys.
We got the toughest group, toughest pool.
Toughest pool, that is fair.
Toughest opponents, in fairness to us.
We'll start with Gloucester versus Ulster, which was a cracking game. This game started at 100 mile an hour and sort of just remained at that speed for the entire game. A try each in the first 10 minutes. We saw Ulster sort of start off on the back foot, but then come back. And as I was watching this game and I watched it back, the biggest question kept coming is, how did Ulster lose this game? Because it was shocking. But yes,
sorry, 3 yellow cards. Was that it?
Three yellow. Yeah, that's not helping,
exactly
for sure. But they were 10 points up with 6 minutes to go and threw it away, which is incredibly disheartening. But Sam, what did you see from Ulster that you liked?
Tempo. Anyway, they were absolutely flying. I thought they were very good. I didn't see it live. I watched it back yesterday afternoon, and I thought there's a noise going on in the background there.
Wesley's niece is introducing herself to the podcast.
But no, I thought they were very good, as they have been the last couple of months. They've been brilliant in the league and they've been going quite well. I thought they were dominating, and I don't understand how they kind of managed to throw it away. I think they'll rue the chance left behind, the mistakes towards the end. I thought there was, some silly play for the yellow cards and stuff. Was it Herring and O'Connor both got yellow carded, and I think that was a bit silly, but I thought on the whole, like, Cooney was good, and I thought Dan McFarland would be very happy with where they've come from. If you look at Ulster traditionally, like maybe the last couple of years, they've been threatening to become as kind of big as maybe your Leinsters and your Munsters in the Irish setup, and the last year or so they've really improved, and that was showcased there. I think they'll be very, very disappointed to not take the win away from it and be in good standing in the tournament. Now it's 2 losses, and that's kind of unfortunate. They're kind of maybe just within a Challenge Cup place, but on the whole, I think if you're looking at it against a Gloucester team that maybe got a bit lucky as well, they were good, but they'll be annoyed at themselves.
Yeah, I think we all expected Ulster to win this game, right? That was this, very winnable game for them. 2 yellow cards in the space of a minute didn't help, but we did see Eric O'Sullivan throw in at the line out and Stockdale scrummage at the flank, or should I say Jacob Stockingdale. First Christmas pun of the day. But that was, Ulster finished strong, the first half strong. Cooney could have added the 3 points, but obviously kind of took his time with it with the yellow card. Also managed that yellow card, the 2 yellow card period incredibly well though.
Did they come out? Was it 3 or 6?
3 up. There would have been 6 up if Cooney had a kick that. So 3 up after being down to 13 men is incredible, because I can't imagine you practice that situation too often, being down to 13 men. 14, fair enough, but 13, I wouldn't imagine it comes up to too often. But Cooney was fantastic this game. Cooney looked like the best scrum half in Ireland again this game, and it's when he performs like this, you do wonder, like, how is he not in Ireland setup? Well, we're not going to get to that. We'll see obviously when Six Nations comes around. But he was incredible. His kicking was incredible. Like the try he scored where he runs out the pitch, it's just the speed and his recognition of the space to go and just grab it and do it. And it was incredible to watch, which I loved. But Yeah, they Ulster, as you say, do all the great things well, but there's just something missing. Is it decision making, or are they just lacking a couple of quality players in key areas? What do you think, Wesley? Is it decision making or players of certain quality?
I think if anything, we're starting to see the quality kind of come through in Ulster. You mentioned Eric O'Sullivan. Obviously Cooney was really on form. I thought Billy Burns had a pretty good game. Obviously,
Yeah, he used to play for Gloucester as well, wasn't it?
yeah.
He was
And
back.
even going back to what he said about being the favourites here, I thought with the kind of upheaval in Gloucester during the week, the Danny Cipriani moving on, like I thought this was kind of they weren't going to be in a good position to play. They're kind of going to be a bit at odds.
But your man who played Evans, Lloyd Evans playing out half, he was very good, I thought, and he was kind of in that Cipriani mold. He was Westy's distracting, but he was in that kind of Cipriani mold. He was a bit exciting as well. It might not necessarily been what they wanted from the replacement. He hasn't played too much as a starter from what I heard at the time in the commentary, but he came in, he was good. I thought that Cipriani leaving this week, like Westy said, would probably have been a big distraction for them, but I think he stepped up to the mark, and maybe he's putting his foot down and saying, I'm here. Like they signed Hastings, but maybe he's going, why did you sign Hastings? I'm here and I'm ready to go. So I thought he was good, and like Wesley said, I thought Burns was good as well, and it was nice seeing Burns go. You always like to see a player play well against the team they came back from, unless they're Cooney coming back to Connacht, then you don't. But other than that, it's fine.
Yeah, the penalty try at the end. Sam, what do you think? Are we agreeing with that decision?
Yeah, I think you have to really.
It's tough, obviously, to get a yellow card and a penalty try, and it is kind of the downfall for us in that game. But at the same time, it is a pretty clear try scoring opportunity, so there isn't much to argue with if you are an Ulster fan. But it's a devastating loss for Ulster because that's them pretty much gone now. But you still have good performances. It's tough. Ulster in such a weird. We've said it before. They're in such a weird space of like. They're good, but they're just not quite there yet. And I think that's going to be, them going forward, unfortunately. Obviously, the next game for them is Connacht. I think Ulster will look at that, and they'll definitely look at the maul as an area where they can get at Connacht, because we'll talk about it later on, but Connacht, again, defensive maul wasn't great. We've seen what Ulster's maul can do against the likes of Toulouse, where they, pretty much dominated that. So they'll look at that as a very winnable game, but I think it's going to be a bit of a cracker. So hopefully that will a Christmas cracker, second Christmas pun of the day, so we're looking forward to that. We'll move on to another amazing game at the weekend: Clermont versus Munster, which is being hailed as one of the greatest European performances from an Irish team in France, one of the best Munster performances of all time, which is. Look, it's fair enough, but the first 20 minutes, Munster were fairly poor, and Clermont absolutely tore them to shreds. Sam, what did you think of this game?
Yeah, well, it was Clermont had the bonus point try. What was it? About middle of the first half, so they were
25 minutes, I think it was.
Yeah, they were absolutely dominating. I was watching it. I think Wycherley ended up playing very well considering that first scrum. People have been saying I don't know too much about being a prop, so I'm not overly confident on the rules as being a prop, but supposedly what Slimani did was illegal at the time, but it's not a nice thing for Wycherley regardless of if it's legal or not, and to come back from that and play the way he did, that's a great sign for him. He's only kind of recently broken into the team. But no, I didn't think they were overly impressive at the start. I think that the narrative is great and all about them being that being a massive display. Going away to Clermont is always going to be impossible, like a very hard task. And, they did well and they came out of it with the win. I will say, and it's not going to go down too favourably with Munster fans, because I know it's all beaming lights coming from Thomond this week with the display. But when I was watching it back, I didn't see it live, and I was watching it back knowing the score, knowing about the comeback, waiting for the amazing comeback. And I was like, Clermont did as much to affect that up as Munster did to win it. And it sounds really bitter as a Connacht fan to be saying that. I think it was amazing for them to get the result in Clermont. It was doubly amazing for them to hold their mentality and put themselves in position to get back and get the result, because obviously that's regardless of what Clermont did, it's you can be gone and down and out by the time you're a bonus point or 4 tries down, with 20 minutes or whatever. And they held on and they came back into it, and there were some good performances, and really and Keith Earls came back after a poor start to the game. I think CJ Stander was very good, very strong. Although both Murray and Casey were both brilliant. You know, when Casey came on, I thought Hanrahan was good. We give him a bit of stick on this show for not being clutch, but he was clutch as you want at the weekend. But I do think that Claremont, there was like 2 yellow cards in a row. So I think it was between 50 and 70, there was Munster were playing against 14 men. So that's going to be a bit of a help, you know. And fair play to them, they took advantage of it, because Connacht were against 14 at the weekend and conceded. So, like, you know, it's all well and good being up against 14. You have to take advantage of it. And they did, and they played well. And, you know, fair play to them, was a great result. But, you know, I do think that the narrative is amazing. The storyline is amazing. If you look into it performance-wise, it was a good performance, but I think there's probably been better, especially considering, you know, it's a pool game. Probably not as much on the line as away in France in a knockout game. You could probably look for a few better ones. I'm going to be biased and say Connacht away games in France have a better history, but sure, whatever. No, fair play to them for getting the result.
Munster won. We lost. Like,
yeah, exactly.
No, I think
I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about historically. I'm talking about the famous away wins in France, Westy. We're talking. The narrative at the moment is that was one of the best Irish away performances in Europe. And I'm going to say it's one of the best, but it's maybe top 5. It's definitely not first.
Yeah, Connacht to lose is pretty impressive. No, I thought I did think JJ had a great game. I think that's a really good response to the last few weeks where, you know, we were criticising his ability to finish games, and then the young lad Healy comes in and is, you know, everyone is so excited about this guy shouting from in an Ireland jersey, and then when JJ has kind of no safety net on the bench, he actually steps up and keeps Munster effectively in it until Claremont make horrific mistakes and get 2 men sent off for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, we have to bring and credit Munster for this, this is where I think Munster and Leinster separate themselves maybe from the Connacht and Ulsters. Munster didn't panic when they went early down. They kept taking on points when the opportunity arose, and it keeps them just within shouting distance. And I have to say, I have been a big, you know, I haven't spoken too kindly of Slay Hanratton. Won 3 of the day. He won 3 of the day. But he was.
That's a bit. I mean, I give it to you, but
it counts. He was brilliant today at that game, and he was. Just did the simple things right. When the penalties arose, let's just put the 3 points up. Let's not do Ulster. We've already spoken about Ulster, but I think 10 minutes into the game, they had a very kickable, again, penalty, and they went to the corner. And it's just start of the game, just get points on the board, and then they will stand to you later on in the game. And Munster are very good at that, which is something we criticised them last year in the semi-final against Leinster in the Pro 14. They didn't do that, so they have learned from their mistakes. Yellow card for the beautiful Shane Daly early on didn't help. Looked great coming off though, so credit to him. Peter Snowmany was
that's poor.
I don't know. I don't think anything.
That's a stretch. That's a stretch.
No, I think Slay way more of a stretch.
Peter Snowmany was fantastic. I thought he was brilliant the whole game.
How about CJ Antler?
Antler? No.
Reindeers Antlers?
Yeah, no, it doesn't work. But look, this is a couple of weeks now in a row. Munster, like it or not, I feel like they are building to something here. They're not performing well, but they're still winning, and they're grinding out these wins. Like Munster are taking way more from their wins than Leinster are from theirs. Do you know what I mean? Like Munster going into that Leinster game next week, they know what they have nearly. You know, we'll get on to the Leinster game, but they were pretty lackluster. Munster are learning more and more about themselves every game. They're going into difficult places and grinding out results, and that stands to a team. Like Munster have been winning consistently now and winning ugly, which stands to a good team. And like it sums it up was when CJ Stander was doing that choke tackle and he's smiling. Like it was brilliant. Like that's what they are. Like they are building. So I think something is coming from Munster.
I just thought, like, on what you said about them winning ugly recently, I thought that they've kind of been building from winning ugly to winning quite technically well. And I know we were talking about, like, what did Larkham bring to the back room for a while. We were saying, like, you know, it's such a shame they have such an unbelievable coaching ticket. And we had yet to see anything by that. I think with Dialande, especially at the weekend, you saw definitely some influence. I'm going to presume it was Larkham's just because that's his job. But, you know, he was, like, Dialande was brilliant. He was running these outside lines and he was running so hard. He was getting a few yards. And I thought he was absolutely excellent. I thought that was probably the best game I've seen from him since the move.
Yeah, they looked good. Like, so credit to Munster. That was, I agree with you in some aspects, Sam. It wasn't you know, an incredible performance, but to be down that much early on and come back and do it the way that they did, I just thought it was very impressive. So credit to Munster. I think they are building towards something. So let's hope that they put in a decent performance against Leinster. Speaking of Leinster, Northampton this weekend. Previously, not the most polished win by Leinster, which they still won, obviously, and with a bonus point. You know, this is their bad games when bonus point wins. Northampton give them problems, which Munster will eye and be like, okay, look they're not maybe at their peak. This is definitely, but this is the problem with these Pro 14 games. Will Munster field the strongest team possible against a Leinster Westie, or will they try and hold back maybe for that Connacht game, which is probably more important in regards to their conference?
No, well, I mean, I think that that Leinster-Munster rivalry is such that Munster wouldn't dare kind of not go with a full strength team. They wouldn't dare not take any opportunity to beat Leinster. I mean, this after a tough, well, maybe not so attritional for Leinster, but after a kind of long couple of weeks of playing, this is a good opportunity to try and get them on a hop, I think. And I can't imagine, even if Munster choose to rest one or two players, I do think they have very strong squads. So you're not really sacrificing too much. It's not quite a Leinster in that you've got effectively two teams that could compete at the same level. But
how important is that game against Leinster? Because I think they have a real chance, but if they go out and get bet well again by Leinster, like I think there's a bit of a mental block there with Leinster when it comes to Munster. Do we think do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think that's the risk of sending an undercooked team to play Leinster, because you're kind of going to reinforce that mentality you have of how many times it's been since they last won. So I think that mental block is a danger. I think you kind of have to take every opportunity to try and to get one over.
Yeah. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I think it might not necessarily be the most important of the Interpro fixtures in terms of the pools and that. I do think that the Connacht one is the one that they'll be looking at and kind of, earmarking as let's go out, guarantee our win, get our 5 points, try and solidify down that pool. But I think it's a massive statement one. I think that they've been kind of embarrassed by Leinster a couple of times. Then they were kind of close, but they weren't actually that close. Leinster look, and it's so ridiculous to say this considering they haven't lost in about 5 years, but they look like you could get at them at the moment. They weren't overly impressive against Northampton Saints. They have a few injuries, might be getting a bit of fatigue after the internationals. They do lose the most first team players to internationals, and it might be an opportunity for this Munster team that are kind of riding the crest of a wave now to get at them, make a statement, pin down that idea that Thomond is a fortress. It's in Thomond, I'm sure, I think, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So, pin that down, make sure they don't get beaten at home. Massive statement going into the second half of the season, kind of put the fear of God in everyone else in the league, because if you're the team that finally toppled Leinster, you get a bit of a name for yourself. So I think for them, it might not be the most important in terms of the pool, the Pro 14, like pool stages and pool and that, but I think for them, it'll be one they really, really want to win. Van Graan will want to win it. It'll be a huge scalp for him. Larkin will want to be like ticking, so and you're testing yourself against the best as well, which is what they'll aim to be doing. They'll aim to show that they can compete with Leinster, because for all intents and purposes, Leinster have absolutely walked this league for 2-3 years now. So
yeah,
hopefully
a big performance from Slay Hanratton that day. So that's what I talk about the Leinster Northampton game before we move on, because I'm sorry, Leinster fans, if you're out to this, but it's just not interesting to talk about.
Covered enough as well. I listened to 2 podcasts.
Oh my God, off the ball. It's just incredible.
Yeah,
there's not too much to talk about. I mean, Northampton were very impressive for the first half, and then Leinster just kind of walked a few tries in and left them in the dust.
And they did walk them in. Like they looked like so much more powerful than Northampton, which I don't think is the case, but they just looked so powerful.
There's a young Northampton team as well, which is really impressing about how well they fought. I just don't understand what happened to them at halftime, because if I was them going into the sheds at halftime, I would have been really confident. I would have been really looking forward to the second half.
Yeah. They, I think they had said that they were going to send a complete novice team. Didn't send as much of a novice team as they had kind of made out like they would. They took a lot of people by surprise when they announced team, and it wasn't as young as you thought. But I thought. Do
you think Leinster were that surprised? Were they like, oh no?
I don't think they were overly surprised, but I think Leinster were quite lackluster in the game. I thought Baird was very good. Didn't think much now of Gibson Park. Ross Byrne, and then was it Ross Byrne was on the bench. Or no, Ross Byrne started, and then
They had a lot of late-minute changes, like
yeah,
just
they had a few
before
changes
kickoff.
and stuff. That kind
Harry
of
Byrne was down to start.
Harry Byrne was down to start. Yeah, and it was kind of a bit confusing. I thought one talking point, and I know it's probably been covered by everyone else now at this stage, but it's just been noticed. I just noticed there just before we came on that your man Wood has been cited for the hit on Van der Fleer.
Oh, he did get cited, did he?
Got cited there.
Rightly so.
Murray Kinsella had tweeted it there, so
Yeah.
literally before we came on, I saw that. The hit, I think it's unfortunate, but it is definitely illegal. It's a byproduct of this jackling thing. You guys are forwards, you'd know better than I would, but I think jackling at the moment is just causing too many problems. Jackling wasn't really a thing when I started playing rugby, and there was never this amount of head collisions or this amount of obvious head collisions. So I don't know what you think, Westy. You're a kind of chief jackler over here. Taken away,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful skill. I love nothing more than seeing one of my players like Heffa or Bundy or something getting over it and jackling. But I do
One
think
of your players.
one of my players that I own as a
on the
season
squad.
ticket holder. But I think that what it's doing is like you saw with Van der Fleer, he's over. His head is the only target that's there, and Wood has lost the ruck. Doesn't need to try and go in for it, but you can't be the guy going into a team meeting on a Monday saying, why didn't you contest that ruck, and saying, oh well, I lost it and there was nothing to aim for, so I had to walk away from it. He has to fly in because that's the attitude that's there. So until people are properly punished for that and it rules it out, I think jackling is unfortunately putting people in their own, they're putting themselves in danger.
Yes, yeah. I mean, my issue with it was when it happened, I was like, well, what is Wood supposed to do? Like, because Van der Fleer's head is he is so low. Like, Wood tries to go down and I think he tries to make contact with the shoulder. And the issue for me is that he does kind of fly in a bit recklessly. And I guess, I mean, that's where you'd kind of be trying to roll somebody out as opposed to driving them off. But yeah, I mean, I think it needs to be examined, because in that situation, it's just going to keep happening. If you get a good jackal over a ball, you're probably going to get smacked in the head now.
I like that someone pointed out today that you have to bind before you basically attempt to remove someone. So it takes out the whole running in from 10 yards, because that's where the real injuries happen. Yeah. That's where Van der Fleer's was. Someone come in from 10 yards. Because these boys are 120 kg with coming in at, say, 15, 20 miles an hour. That is incredible force to be putting on someone's neck, or in Van der Fleer's case, his knee. So maybe if it was a case where you have to bind on before you actually start to remove someone, that I think once you remove the actual running up to a ruck and just busting someone, which, look, we're hypocritical because we all complimented feckin' Porter for nailing Stuart Hogg in the Ireland Scotland game. Like, it's the part of us that is like barbaric, that we like, that we're all like, fuck yeah, that was class, But it is incredibly dangerous, and that is the problem. That's where the injuries come. So something like that maybe can be done.
Rucks used to be more of a wrestling match than this, like, who can run at the ruck the hardest. It used to be like you get over, you get your foot over, you kind of drive past the ball, and it would free it up for the scrum half. And now it's very much like get onto the ball, put your hands on the ball, which, like, that's where the danger lies. People's heads are down and their neck is exposed like that. And I think that, I know it'd be a huge shame to lose that skill because it is such a great skill, but there's like how many big injuries to the knees and to the neck and to the head have to happen before we start examining like whether or not the skill is worth the kind of potential downsides to it. Because I think all it does is it invites players like that Tom Wood one to come in completely recklessly, have no control over their own body. Whereas if you have like, an actual grappling fight, an old style ruck, there's less likelihood of impact injuries. You might still get a twisted ankle, twisted knee or whatever, and that's unfortunate. That comes with a contact sport. But if you can reduce, like the collision in NFL, where you're no longer allowed to land on the QB because it was just injuring players. Like, if you can reduce and get rid of that, maybe that's the thing that needs to be examined.
I think as well, the fact that now the referees call a jackal so quick, like what's it, like a second on the ball, and they'll pretty much call it. That's why lads are rushing in, so they might have to review that as well, possibly. But look, we'll leave it to the powers that be. Move on to our last game. Connacht, obviously Bristol, was a good game again. Connacht, absolutely, one thing you can say about Connacht is there's no quitting that team. They fight to the very end. First 25 minutes was incredibly sloppy from both teams, and it wasn't, you could even hear the commentators being like, we know normally it's incredibly wet and windy in Connacht, but the conditions are quite mild. This is not weather related, this sloppiness. It was just poor. But Westy, first kind of half that Connacht Bristol game, what was the issue?
I think it was almost like kind of nerves on each side. Like, both teams knew they needed to win it. I'd say both teams know each other pretty well. They probably know us a lot better because I'd say we probably use a lot of the structures of Batland put in place still. And it was just that nobody wanted to give up anything. Both trying to get over the line first. Like again, a couple of opportunities where maybe penalties, kick for posts were on the cards, but nobody wanted to take them. Which again, as I say, with the conditions the way they are, was shocking. Like I don't know, for us securing a win should have been above everything. I don't think we should have been worrying too much about getting tries out of it.
We'll leave the Paul Boylan's into the end because it's obviously a
I don't mind
talk.
about that so much. I don't really.
Yeah, but it's a massive talking point, so we'll leave that towards the end. But what did you like from Connacht? What did you see that was positive?
I thought some of our interplay was really good. Like especially like the tries that we scored were off lovely switch moves from the backs. I do think our defence, even in the first half, despite the try, I think our defence was brilliant. I think our actual in-play defence has come so far. And one of the things to say is I thought Bristol, I don't think I texted you guys, I meant to text you guys and say that like they were unbelievable at the breakdown, but I think we actually won more breakdown penalties than they did. So I think we countered their big lads in those situations pretty well.
Yeah, what about you, Sam?
Yeah, I thought the first 20 minutes was more of like it was like the first few rounds in a boxing match. It was like no one really wanted to go in for it. It was very
a really amateur, low-level boxing fight. Yeah.
It was very cagey. It was very kicking. It was a lot of knock-ons. Like the line-out was kind of all over the place, and the line-out was for Connacht all over the place. I really hope that, we don't know who these COVID positive tests were, but you have to presume that it was Thornbury and Rue. You can't see on any other reason as to why they wouldn't have been like on the pitch, because we do lack the power, and Maston has been brilliant as a second row, but he is still learning the position. So you missed out on that. You missed out on that from a defensive maul point of view. Scrummaging, I don't think we were too bad. I think both teams lost a few scrums here or there. I was happy with how we scrummed, considering they had a pack that consisted of like Sinclair and Luatua and Nathan Hughes, and like all manner. English packs tend to be more destructive anyway than Irish packs in the recent years. And I thought I was extremely happy with Carty, how he kind of did manage the game. He put in a few good kicks. He was smart with the ball. I was very pleased and impressed with him. Sheedy's going to be a good player. I think he just played for Wales there during the last tournament, though. He's going to be a very good player. Bundy had a bit of a quiet game, but then beside Bundy, I thought Arnold was strong in the run again off the back of that Racing game. Forwards were good. I was impressed with kind of everyone. Masterson, the two Mastersons again. On the whole, I think we can really rue the points we left on the pitch, be that the bonus point or be that the win, if we had taken advantage of some good possession and continued to play the way we did, because we did look like winning at one point. We looked like getting another try. We had a man advantage and we were playing well. And we scored some very nice tries and we had some really, really good interplay. I think that we can rue that now. But when we were going into the tournament and we were drawn with Racing and Bristol just after winning the Challenge Cup and are in contention and conversation to win the league this year, the Premiership this year, we're very close. Like during the semi-final last year, they spent so much money on players, the likes of Piatau, and I know he wasn't playing, Charles Piatau wasn't playing, but Semi Randrandra, who wasn't playing either, but they have an absolutely stacked squad, huge backing, playing in a more competitive league. I think we really did show ourselves well again this week. We played brilliant away in Racing 2 weeks ago, and we played well again in this. And the fact that we can sit here on a podcast and talk about being disappointed with the result, playing against Bristol and being that close against Bristol, a Bristol team that will probably win the Premiership in the next year or two. They're an extremely good outfit with, in my opinion, probably the best coach in the Northern Hemisphere. So, best club coach anyway. So I think that, the Connacht lads can be extremely proud of themselves the last 2 weeks, and would be a bit disappointed to not have more than the point on the board. But when we were drawing against Racing and Bristol, everyone went, "Oh Jesus!" And I don't think you can look past that. I don't think you forget that now that the game is over. It was a good game. It was great to see Adi Alokan. Disappointed now Heenan wasn't able to play and McCabe wasn't on the pitch. But, seeing the Connacht lads back there, I was quite down when I was watching the game that we couldn't be in the sports ground cheering them on, because I saw Jake Heenan was definitely in Galway. He put up an Instagram story of videoing Adi Alokan beside a picture of himself on the back of the clan stand. And it's nice for those players, and it would have been really nice to give them the welcome, give Muldoon the welcome, and Lamb.
Also, a heads up to the Connacht staff: get the picture of Addy Loken down. It's been a while.
A bit late on that one.
A bit late on that one, guys. I know it's been a tough year, but
just the point on Owen Masterson, he's actually has the most line-out steals of the season now with 6.
Yeah,
and he's not even only meant to be doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Jokingly,
been sitting on fact for 10 minutes trying to get that in.
Jokingly, I'm just going to add, like, you have to steal the other team's lineouts when your lineout doesn't work at all.
Yeah. Well, but, I was critical of them all as well, but then you are missing, as you say, Quinrue, Thornbury, even Papali'i. He would add such beef to it, like something like that.
Sean O'Brien. There's a lot of players.
Sean O'Brien, yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of beefy players missing. The Maul, like, we've never been a massively defensive Maul team. Like, we've never been hugely strong, but a couple of weeks ago I actually even tweeted, I said I was complimentary of how well we had done defensively in the Maul. The last 2 weeks we hadn't. My issue isn't really with being steamrolled by Racing or Bristol in the Maul, because they're just massive packs and really strong and well drilled, and
Racing absolutely steamrolled Harlequins pack as well at the weekend.
But my issue is the fundamentals. The line-out hasn't gone to hand the last 2 weeks, and I don't know if that's a lifter, if that's a thrower, if that's a caller, if that's a jumper issue, but something has to happen. We have to be more secure, because, up until last year, we were, with Quinrue jumping, Olton jumping, Masterton jumping, Thornbury jumping, you would say, like, we have a strong line-out, and you want to get back to that. You want, your throwers. I don't know if it was too much to read into. There was one point when Buckley went over to explain the call to Hef, and the camera stayed on him, and Buckley was doing a kind of a football manager on the sideline telling a player where to go. Like, he looked like he was explaining the call, which you hope that wasn't the case, and you hope that you shouldn't be worried about, like, players not knowing the calls or things being made up on the fly, because that's going to be the root of your problems, like we've seen the last 2 weeks. And I think we can get back to it, no problem. Get Quinn back in. We know he's a primary line-out caller, so get him back in as soon as we can, and hopefully it'll all be good.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of positives to take from Connacht. Obviously, similar to Ulster, they're just lacking that final piece to just make it clinical, and definitely decision-making, I think, is another issue along with Ulster that Connacht suffer with. We'll have to talk, obviously, about the talking point of the game was the decision to not take the 3 points at the end and go for the corner to try and basically they end up getting stuffed, and they end up getting nothing. The Lunas bonus point was left on the table. My only issue with it is if you were within 6 points, if you're within a try, I can understand it to a certain degree, but you were still, I think it was 8-9 points down. You were still too far.
We weren't going to win anyway.
We weren't going to win anyway.
Yeah,
I understand in this year's format, the way the tournament is, realistically losing bonus point isn't going to make a difference to your campaign, but at the same time, you don't just leave it there and not take it. And look, Paul Boyle's coming under a lot of fire from these Facebook pundits. Wes, I don't know if you saw, but some guy called Mark thinks that Kieran Marmion and Jack Carthy should never play for Connacht again. I know. Yeah, he's probably the next Connacht manager. But
we were thinking maybe that he actually wasn't being critical of them, and he was being critical of Connacht and saying that they're for us. That's the only logical explanation I can come up with.
It's like these two guys deserve better. That's what he was saying. But if you're on Facebook calling Paul Boyle an idiot, then you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. That's what I would say.
I think people have been really harsh on him. Like, I've kind of read what his comments on it, and he basically said, like, well, sure, I wasn't thinking about trying to get into the Challenge Cup. I was thinking about the Champions Cup, and we wanted to get as many points as we could. And like, I do get that. Like, we had the momentum. That yellow card killed us, conceding 2 tries in 5 minutes. Like, that might be the tale of the Irish teams of this round. Really, is just the yellow cards. But I get to, like, fuck, let's go for the try. Like, let's not worry about the Challenge Cup, and I respect that to a certain degree. Okay, yeah, look, you probably should have taken the 3 points, but I don't really care, to be honest. I don't want to go back to the Challenge Cup. We belong in the Champions Cup. That's what we should be concerned about.
Yeah, I get it. That's what, if it was a case of that extra point would have got you through to the next round or something, like, obviously that's totally different, but it's not. So you probably, in hindsight, you take the points, you get your losing bonus point. 2 losing bonus points from a game against Bristol and Racing. When you look back in a year or two, that's incredible. For this time against those two teams, but when you're in the heat of the moment, why not?
With what Wesley's saying, and I read Paul Boyle's comments as well. Like, I back Paul Boyle to become a great Connacht captain within the next few years. That's his second game as captain. you know, his
Okay,
actual.
Sam, don't get emotional. Calm down.
Yes, he sounds breaking up there.
But that's his second game of
tears. You're choking on tears.
That's his second game as captain. The week before, the last couple of weeks, he's been brilliant. The last year and a half, he's been excellent. We've said, why hasn't he been in the Irish team? That is one moment of naivety which he will learn from. It takes a long time for you to be the type of captain that can think clearly in the last minute of a game in the freezing cold in December when you're losing in the Challenge Cup. Like it was 23 or 24. It's one small thing. He made a decision that he himself will know, and the coaches will have talked to him, and he'll learn from that. And I can guarantee you'll see a rejuvenated Paul Boyle out next week, absolutely running people over, because he's got a good head on his shoulders and he's going to move on from this. I don't think there's any need. And it's like we've said with Stockdale, you can discuss any issue with a player, you can discuss any issue with something that happens, but you discuss it. You don't criticize the person. And when people are calling him out on Twitter or Facebook, it's so disgusting. I don't like it at all. But you know, people could probably go back through my Twitter for something 5 years ago that I said personally. So, you know, I'm not going to be too quick to judge, but I just think, you know, Paul Boyle is going to be a brilliant captain for.
You're going to get cancelled, Sam. You're going to get cancelled. We're going to cancel you.
Paul Boyle will be a brilliant captain in years to come. In the next few years, he's really grown into himself the last while, and he's nailed down his spot in the team. Be that, you know, as a flanker or a number 8, you know, he's grown into it, and he's gotten the ball and he said, "This is mine." So, you know, happy days. I'm glad he's on our team, and I'll take one silly snap decision about whether or not you lose by 8 or by 5. Like, you know, that's a decision that, like, you know,
exactly.
It's the 80th minute and you have a decision to make, and he made a decision that in the long run probably won't be any issue. When we're in the Challenge Cup and BT don't even feckin' air the yoke, people won't be like, "Oh, I'm so glad we got into this tournament."
Yeah, exactly. A few positives though. Our boy Porchy was incredible again, and Boots just as sexy as the week before. I also loved Bundy Aki chatting shit to the Bristol back or the Bristol forwards before he goes and Porchy scores the try. That was a personal highlight for me. Also, was Jack away in an Ainger playing? Boom! Last pun of the day.
Been waiting to say that one for a while.
Oh man, I was sitting on that for a while, but it was
He was playing, and just like last week, and we spoke about it last week, I think he was so positive when he came on. I thought he ran so hard. I'm really, really impressed with him the last 2 weeks. I hope to see that.
I actually knew he played. I just wanted to get the pun out. If I'm being honest, it wasn't a genuine question.
I got to come up with some good puns now.
I've been sitting on those all day. Just for our end of year special.
Westy has forever referred to Bundy as Bundy Claus, so
I have always called him Bundy Claus. I mean, it's not even a pun. I just call him Bundy Claus.
Bundy Claus, because he's always giving presents. That's why Westy, isn't it? Always giving presents.
How about Trina O'Halloran?
What was good to see Tiernan O'Halloran back. Obviously, his defensive effort for that try wasn't the best. That's what we criticised Stockdale before. I think, Sam, you said you got to take ball carrier there.
Yeah, I think fullbacks, everyone in fullbacks, every coaching thing, just turn around fullbacks and just take out the guy with the ball. If he gets the pass away, if you force a mistake, great. But being stuck between two minds as a fullback is killing. You know, it killed Stockdale a few weeks ago. It's killed him a few times the last couple of weeks. And it got Tiernan there at the weekend, and you know that was probably the only blemish on his performance, because I thought he was brilliant after that. He was really
scored try, it was great. Westy must have been a proud moment.
Look, it's great to see. It's great to see him play well again. Great to see him carry well. Yeah, look, a bit spotty here and there, but I think like the poor lad's been in and out of play so much over the last few years. Like, it's just good to see him get a few games back to back.
Yeah, it's tough seeing Porchy.
Although Porchy's my full back, like.
Exactly. It was a lovely pass for Porchy for the try as well. Yeah. Like, I know it looked like it was an easy overlap, but that's a long pass off your bad side. So fair play to him. There was another time when we were fighting to try and get that try to get us back into the game, or get us close into the game, where he picked and went on his own from the back of a ruck and managed to nearly drive over. I was like, oh, what, Tiernan? So
yeah,
I'm happy to put him back on the pitch, and hopefully, you know, the defensive side of things, he'll learn from that and grow into it a bit. Probably will most likely see a rotation between him and Porchy at fullback. I like the idea that we have two quality fullbacks now. For a long time, whenever Tiernan went down injured, it was a worry. Darrell Eder was a good player, but was also always injured, which was unfortunate for him. And then between that, and it was either like pull Matt Healy back or play a bit of jiggery pokery. I think at one stage last year, Jack Carty started fullback. So
he did, right?
Having
Yeah.
Birchie and Tiernan at fullback would be great, especially with that. I think we have a lot of games in a row now in the next few months.
Yeah, the Interpros next couple of weeks is going to be good. The Ulster Connacht game really is, and Munster Leinster is going to be fantastic. So something to watch when you're sick of the family come 26th, 27th, which is probably inevitable with the lockdown. But we're going to wrap up there, boys. It's been a great year. Thanks to everyone who's listened so far this year. If you haven't already, tell a friend. Let's try and grow it together. Get on. We're always up for a bit of crack. We always interact on the Twitter and stuff. So to let everyone know, and cheers for sticking with us. And we'll be back in the new year at some stage, lads, to talk more shite about rugby, I'm sure. But until then, appreciate it as always, and we'll chat to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, boys.